Police don't protect you. The government doesn't serve you. Change isn't made in a ballot box. You better get together with the people in your neighborhood and learn how to save yourselves. Hey, howdy, hey, lovers to critics.
Critics?
I threw something new in there for an outside podcast conversation Jim and I were having. I am Aly.
And I'm Jim.
And this is the Bad Podcast. Bozeman Antifa Dance and Theater Collective.
That's correct. That's what BAD stands for.
Yes, because sometimes we forget that. And today we have an amazing guest with us who is a very...
I'm not a guest, I'm the host.
Oh, Jim. You pipe down over there. Our guest today is someone who I want to honor so deeply for being an incredible friend, actor, aesthetic designer, mover, shaker, Kate Bush aficionado, and plant goddess.
And podcast space provider.
And community builder. This is Phaidra.
Hi.
And Phaidra, is there anything else that you would like to preface with yourself? How would you like to introduce yourself?
I don't know if I feel like you hit all of the high points.
Who are you, Phaidra?
Who am I?
We've got all this time, so...
Yeah. Just kidding. We've got rapid fire questions later in the show.
Right, but you'll get to know her that way.
Before we get started on the podcast, I do want to quickly ask, just for a check-in, how you both are feeling, if anything stands out to mention before we get into the topics.
You know, work sucks. I'm sick of work. So I'm really happy to be here. But if my eyes are buggy or I seem aloof or something.
Yeah, every time I get in the car with you, I'm like, how are you? And you're like, my eyes. And
my eyes are buggy.
Yeah. I don't quite know what you mean by that.
It's like I can't focus. They're like dry and
that's
because
how
I'm
I feel when I leave my
screen all
contacts
day.
in too long.
Except,
you don't wear contacts.
No, I don't. It's just from staring at a screen all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
and
awful.
So suddenly I'm in a world of people. Yeah. And I'm like, how do I relate?
People are.
Oh gosh. I love that song.
I do too. I'm singing a lot.
I'm happy the weather is the way it is. Like I honestly, it's like
the El Nino.
So
El Nino.
El Nino. Yes, it's November in Montana, United States of America for our foreign listeners, and for those who aren't aware of our geography, we're usually covered in snow at this time of year. And
it was like 60 degrees at some point today.
Was it 60? I didn't think it got up that high. But
or
Jim
50-something. 50-something.
Jim said 60, so we'll assume that it was.
Yes. Unseasonably warm.
Unseasonably warm. Which maybe is, I don't know.
It could be a sign
of a portion of things to come. But hey, I'm going to enjoy it while I'm here.
Right? We will continue to just do what we do, whatever happens. And I had a very silly day laughing with my coworker who just got back from vacation. And right before I left, she walked in on me while I was scanning things and in like a kind of a dissociated state, like not even in a bad way, but I like wasn't in my body. And she came up behind me and scared me. And I let out the most guttural shriek I've had since I was like in middle school.
For our listener's sake, you should shriek that loud.
No, I don't want to scare Ryan and think that one of us is like being murdered. Then I like crouched to the ground and it took me a full, I think, 3 minutes to recover.
That's
if
I'm incredibly startled, I just drop.
Yes, I was like, like couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
So, what inspired you to change lovers to haters to lovers to critics?
Because I was just talking about how funny it is when I mention my critics.
Yeah.
On the podcast. I was going through a post of ours and I would be like, our critics say this, and this is our response. Yeah. So sometimes they're my critics, sometimes they're ours.
Lovers to critics, because we like awkward phrasing.
Why not? I try to spice it up a little bit every time. Jim, do you want to introduce the first topic of today?
Sure. So we're here to talk to Phaidra, who is this incredible space. All you're seeing is her partner's office right now. But
there's so much more.
But actually, this is an incredible theater space, and we actually talked about it a couple episodes ago. But we actually want to bring it to life and have Phaidra in her own words describe what she's hoping for from this incredible. Describe the space, tell us what it's about, why it's about, what you're hoping for. And then we'll chime in with questions and conversation.
And other things that you're interested in, not regarding the space, like anything creative that you just want to spitball about. And
sure, we're all for tangents.
I think I think the first step is to try to attempt to describe, I guess, the space.
Yeah.
So my partner, Ryan, who is an incredibly loving, supportive person, he is a skateboarder. Yes.
Yes.
Snaps to him.
That actually exists.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, no, I know. Right? No, I mean, seriously.
We do have episodes. I'm the person who always references past episodes here. So we have episodes where we believe in love.
Yeah.
And we have also
and this is one too, goddamn.
Relationships fall apart. This is a bbelieve in love episode.
And so we are recent transplants to Bozeman, and he
from North Dakota.
From North Dakota. So we lived in Fargo, North Dakota, and we had built what he calls it's a half pipe, is the best way to describe it. And when we moved from Fargo, we dismantled it into pieces and moved it into a moving truck, and that was a lot of work. And then we went through a winter here, and then starting last spring, Ryan started rebuilding the half pipe. And in Fargo, there was like a crew of people, other skateboarders that had built it with Ryan. He is one of the founders of North Dakota Skateboarding Association, which is a nonprofit that is working on building more accessible spaces for skateboarders in North Dakota. Eventually, there will probably be a version of that here in Bozeman. Okay. So anyway, we learned when we were in Fargo that the half pipe, the ramp, was an incredible community building space. So not only, like I said, it was like a crew of people that built it, and we would, as we do, we always feed people. We'd feed people, built it. And then because I'm a theater person, it's this, the surface of the ramp is covered in this product called skate light, which is, if people have like Epicurean or like cutting boards, it kind of feels like that. But anyway, and we would have dance parties on it. I mean, like I had, friends with hula hoops, and I mean, we did all of those things, and because it's such a great dance surface.
I mean, just the idea that
you thought of it creatively.
Right. As more than skateboarding.
Well, so when we got here, and then Ryan basically built it by himself so it took much longer to build it when we were here. And then I had done a show with Verge Theater, met Aly, met Jim through Aly, met many people. I mean, just, I don't know, if you want to make friends, do a show. Yes. And Ryan, I mean, he did this version, this like 2.0 version of it. It's so pretty. Mm-hmm. Like it's just such a nice space, and it's warm and inviting, and there's sails above it. And it just became this idea where it's like, well, it doesn't have to only be a skateboarding space. Mm-hmm. He has open skate nights every Wednesday night. And I was like, I'm going to start having open stage nights, because the acoustics are great. It's, I don't know. And the way the yard is set up, like here's some chairs. This is a stage. And
it lends itself to so many different
and dance parties.
And thanks to climate change and global warming, we can do
it all the way into December, apparently. So I guess it just, the space itself without, and maybe we can include some pictures or something at some point, but it's just, it lends itself to creativity outside of simply skateboarding. I don't want to say just skateboarding, because skateboarding is important. And Ryan, being Ryan, was like, yeah, hell yeah. Have open stage nights. Let's do this. Like,
Beautiful.
What do you need? How can I help? Let's go get some lights. So that's kind of, and it came out of conversations that we had, and it was just our first open stage night was freezing cold, and there was just a few of us, but it was one of those things where it's like, we just have to do it. We just have to break the ice.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, almost literally.
Almost literally. It was not cold. A warm evening. And so I guess the goal that I have with this space is that we can have these more formal open stage nights, but it also can just be a place where if the weather's really nice on a Saturday afternoon to say, hey, come over. Mm-hmm. Do you want to do a monologue? Do you want to work performance? Do you want to read poetry? We did a lot of poetry readings, which I am very happy about. I love poetry. And so it was nice to be able, for people to be able to share poems that are near and dear to our hearts and are meaningful to us. But I guess the whole, concept behind it, whatever, I want a place where people feel that they can risk and fail. Mm. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And I feel that if you get into a more formal stage space, often people think things have to be polished to a certain degree.
Yes.
And I just want a place where people can run around and, I don't know, just have fun.
Right. We could just have like a viewpoints afternoon.
Exactly.
And it's like, if art is going to become a way of life, how are we going to get to that stage of existence if we're not trying to get ourselves to be more comfortable in doing it with regularity with one another?
And also, just like you said, just viewpoints, having, again, it doesn't have to be for any reason. It doesn't have to be working toward a performance. It can be spontaneous movement for the sake of spontaneous movement. Yeah. Let's bust out some fabric and make weird shapes.
Yeah. Yes. And for people who haven't done that, like, I really think every person needs to find some way that feels safe to them to do spontaneous movement, because it is so cool. If you can do it with like even just like 3 of your close friends in your house, the things that come out and the things that you discover about yourself and the way the wheels start turning of like, oh, we could do this and my body could do that. And you're like, it's so fun. And it's this like pure free creativity that you can access at any moment.
So what do you say to people say, I'm not a creative person? Is this something that would
there are so many answers.
Work for me? Is there a way for
Are you talking about spontaneous movement? Or are you talking about
somebody says, like, I'm not into arts.
Like, I hear that all the time. It's like, oh, well, I'm not an artist.
I think it's great that you're doing it, but it's not me.
Do you have a response to that when people kind of say that?
So yes and no. I guess as an adult, it's a little more difficult to tell people. I mean, have you ever tried it? You know what I mean? Like, because you can't really. There are very few venues where somebody feels really willing to risk embarrassment.
Totally.
Because as an adult,
that's the main hurdle we face in our dancing. For sure.
Exactly. If it's younger people, theater to me is the best thing that you can get involved in, even as an adult. And it's like, well, you don't want to perform, you don't want to dance, maybe you want to do sound design or lighting design or just help hang lights, you know. But if you don't have an interest in the arts, then you're probably not going to show up and help hang lights. But I do think that if you were ever to show up and help hang lights, you'd probably make some pretty cool friends. And that goes into, I mean, do you like concerts? Hanging lights and programming soundboards and stuff, there's so much, but like, is the average Joe going to use that in their life? Probably not. Can you unlock things in people? Yes, but I do think it's providing like quote unquote safe spaces for people. But can I get the neighbor across the street to show up for spontaneous movement.
The one who called the cops on
No. It wasn't that. I'm convinced at this point that it was the Airbnb people.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe it was those people. Anyway, but like he's a hockey dad
Fuck
or whatever.
you who called the cops.
Yeah, which it's fine. I mean, the cops were mostly just kind of amused by the whole thing. Like they were just like, okay,
Yeah, confusing cops is our new hobby.
Yeah.
It was actually so much fun because I was so polite and I was just like, and they were like, okay.
Okay, so this is a space that's open for everybody that's in the community.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be a trained actor.
Nope.
You don't have to be a trained artist. You don't have to be a trained singer. You don't have to be a published poet. You don't have to do auditions.
Nope.
You just have to want to do it.
And I don't even know,
be
an audience.
Or be in the audience.
Yeah.
And
So is
witness
an
it.
artist then just someone who wants to create art?
That's tapping into. I mean, I feel like what's the definition of art?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I think we should continue to broaden the definition of art.
I got into
Hockey Dad over there could be an artist. You know? We don't know the depths of his soul.
Exactly.
What does he yearn for?
Exactly. And he could come over, watch what's happening, and pull out some poem or something. You know what I'm saying? I would love that.
Yeah.
I got into.
We definitely have to get the skate group to
and there's a few of them, like, when they've been here since, there's a few of them that are really interested and, like,
cool.
At least participating as audience members. If not, I would love to do some sort of performance with skaters in the background, with, like,
cross the
streamers, like...
While we try to yell our lines.
Yes, exactly. Yell our lines over the sound of the wheel.
I can project, so I'm good.
But I and that goes into, and it's something that Ryan and his friends or his partners in India say, they're looking very much at what skate parks across America look like, and different. I mean, and there are things that he shows me, and that he's very passionate about it. And there are places in this country that are doing exactly what we're talking. Like, let's build a skate space, but it becomes a performance space and a community garden space and a childcare space and a native plant. You know what I mean? Like, it's. All it is an infrastructure, and it's always interesting.
It sounds like anarchist infrastructure.
Yeah, and mostly...
because it's resisting a normalized form that exists for capitalism.
Yes, exactly. And using it for all sorts of different purposes, and it evolves and changes over the course of the seasons, because... in the winter, it's going to be something different than it is in the summer.
I mean, the biggest reason I'm so excited about what you're doing is that if you want to do acting in this town, there are a few places that you can go do it.
Yep.
If you want to see performance, you generally, for good reason, because people have to pay for their spaces. You have to go pay for your tickets. If you want to dance in this town, sure, Aly and I dance anywhere, and we've proven that it's possible. But you usually have to go to specific places to do it. And here is a place that's open to the community and open for anyone to find their form of personal expression. And you mentioned gardening, because I know you're and gardening's a big part of your life. Yeah. Like, all of these forms of human expression have been restricted to us and commoditized and made harder for all of us to access, or we become so specialized.
It shouldn't even be a question of whether or not we're good at something to be able to do it.
Right.
That traps us. That traps me. I feel myself being cut off from my own creative potential because I'm worried I might produce something bad. And I intellectually know that I want to override that and work through that, but it's so hard to do.
Right. All of these forms of human expression, all of these ways to be human, we've limited ourselves to the particular thing we do really well at, or have a career doing, or in very narrow, confined, really defined spaces. And a space like this is inviting us to find all kinds of different ways to reclaim our humanity, and I find that super exciting.
I do too. My dad on the phone the other night was like, well, Aly, a lot of people, the only satisfaction they get from doing something in their life is kill a pig, get a little satisfaction. I think about Fred Hampton every day. That is a huge tangent. He was saying that a lot of people only get satisfaction in life from doing their paid job well and getting accolades and getting raises. And I was like, yes. And isn't that so fucking sad?
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's sad?
I absolutely think it's sad. I think it's crazy that people, I mean, I want to combine one of my passions with turning it into a career, but that's not my only passion.
Right.
I think I'm
and doing your work for someone else to make a huge amount of profit off of it, whereas you get the very tiny.
Yes. The trickle down effect. Yeah. That didn't work.
The
Thanks,
imaginary.
Megan. Yeah. But no, I think that we have been taught that your life is supposed to go a certain way, and my life certainly hasn't gone that way. Like
I'm so glad.
I am too. I talk about that a lot. That there are people. If you could go back and do it all again, and I'm like, well, I like where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
So would I make different choices? I mean, yeah, there's maybe a few people in there I wouldn't have banged or something like that. But
definitely
but not like major, I don't know. Anyway, but we are taught that there's this certain formula for happiness. And if you don't follow it, you're not going to be happy. But I think what people are realizing is that they followed the formula, then they're incredibly unhappy.
Right.
And if the only place where you feel, I think there's a few, talking with your dad, the accolades from a job or a raise, doing your job well. I think another place where people live vicariously through their children, if their children are, if they have children, if their children are doing well, or, if your kid is the star hockey player, that somehow makes your life better.
Right. I hate that.
I hate that. I hate
I told my partner at the time when our son was born, I love my son. I will love him intensely the rest of my life. I am not living my life through my child. That's not fair to me because I'm more than a parent. I'm more than a procreator who will then live through their child, who will live there through their child. Yeah. And it's not fair to the child.
It's so much pressure. It's so much pressure.
Well, and it's also, it's really bizarre talking about hockey parents. So, Fargo hockey is huge. And Ryan's kids would play hockey, so I'd go to the games as a support, and I just would stand there, just be shocked at all of the parents. And even Ryan and the mother of his children, they would say, "Oh, we're doing good," and I would call them out on it. It's like, you're not doing anything. What are you? Yeah. Me? Your kids are out there. You're standing. You're like, what? And just that mindset, we are doing, our team. And it's you're not on the fucking team. That's it. But, and that mindset is all across the board in parenting.
So I think about this all the time, this notion of the artificial ways we bring community together by sort of imposing, I'm the parent, I'm the provider, we're in this together, we're a family, whether you want to be in our family or not. That kind of we're in this together, when actually we're individuals here and we're not honoring that. And then at the same time, we don't have ways of actually building.
But you hit on something. Hit on something. So that is that sports parent or a theater parent or whatever it is. And it's a community. Well, and theater parents can be just as bad because I did competitive speech and theater in high school. Yeah. And it's the same thing. Yeah. But it's not truly building a community. It's building a competitive community.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because
important distinction.
So that's a group of people that associate with each other. It's true. And you know their names and you do potlucks and you do, but if your kid isn't in the upper echelon of whatever hierarchy
it's
they've
hierarchical.
Invented. Yeah. So then, the chorus member in theater or I don't even know any team parts for hockey.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
Defense?
Yeah, sure.
There's
If you're not the star quarterback, you're also as a parent not recognized as much. It's incredibly fucked up.
Yeah.
So it's this competitive community. So if we take away, and I think, even religious communities are like that.
Yep.
Like if you're not, part of the praise band or we've created so how do we create communities that are actually based on but we take away that competitive nature of a community. And I don't know, I'm lucky enough to have found people very swiftly in this community that have the same, our moral compasses are pointed in the same direction, so to speak.
Yeah, we just want to share joy and peace and desire.
But I just, and it's like, and people don't do that. Like the average, whatever, people, they take their kids to soccer, ballet, lacrosse, or they don't have kids, I don't know, and church is a huge thing for people, I don't know.
That's for me. I'm a minister's kid.
Yeah. Well, I
too. Yeah. I was a cult and then a normal, liberal church kid.
Yeah. And I definitely, there was at one point in my life, I thought I wanted to be a missionary. And then I realized, no, I just want to travel.
Yeah.
I don't, anyway, but people don't how do you find, and within those spaces, I guess, those competitive community spaces, hopefully you do make true connections with people and find good friends.
But we
and
don't
I have
need that
seen
structure.
Exactly. But how do you find people, without a structure? You know what I'm saying?
Very vulnerably, and you get your heart broken a lot.
There's always going to be some structure to almost anything.
Yeah.
And
once again,
I was calling out the competitive structure.
No, but even auditioning for a play and getting into a play is a competition.
Right. So I think what you're doing, or what we're trying to create, and what you're opening your space is inviting something really different, right? We're inviting people to be their truth selves, share with other people being their true selves and being vulnerable and open to each other. And we believe that if that happens, better community building can happen from that process than these artificial goals of we're going to win the championship or we're going to, beat our sales projections at this job.
But if you need to go to a space that is like that and try to scout out the people who seem like they have something else going on, a little twinkle in their eye. Because Phaidra was talking about, how do you find these people? Mm-hmm. Often, you're only going to be able to find them in these spaces because spaces like this one aren't normalized. So, go to the audition, find the people who you vibe with.
And then I can't
resonate with going to watch a hockey game, but...
I can't either.
There are degrees of these things.
Well, but within that, I don't know, micro interactions with people and I don't know, getting a sense of people. I don't know. It's also, it's a risk when you open your heart to anybody, even as a friend. We've talked about this, that it's I don't know, sometimes you meet somebody and you feel a strong connection, and then by the third, fourth, fifth time that you hang out with them, you're like, okay, no.
Or something else happens.
Yes,
you don't
but it's friendship.
It's
friendship dating. People date, but I think people don't friendship date.
That's very true.
You know what I mean? I don't know how to, so anyway,
people date and they're like, I want to see if we're a good fit. I want to really get to know you. And with friends, it's like, you down for a beer later? Well, but not really actually getting to it.
To it, yes.
Right.
But finding those people, creating spaces, and quite frankly, if somebody's not, and this sounds like an asshole, but if somebody's not willing to come over and hang out and check out an open stage night,
absolutely.
If I've asked them, I probably don't want to hang out.
Right.
That's going to be my new litmus test for friends and partners.
Do you want to come watch people be weird?
For Aly, it's, will you dance with me? Will you get chained to a oil pipeline with me?
Yeah, I definitely want to do that. Yeah.
And will you do an open stage night?
Yep.
And you don't have to perform. You just have to be present.
A lot of guys will still say yes because they'll say whatever they want you.
And I'll be like, all right, I'm getting that chain right now. But yeah, I mean, that all brought tears to my eyes, Phaidra. It's like towing the line of living in a world that is not at all, or at least a culture in the United States that is not at all set up for our hearts and what we see as valuable, and living in that world while also creating a new one however we can with whatever resources we have, which, yeah, for some of us are more limited than others. But we all have something, even if it's just our body and our heart. And how can we share that with those that we trust?
I'm not a critic to that. That's
nope.
beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. The time is happening, but Phaidra, do you have any other ideas or things that you just wanted to share with us for doing in the future?
I think one of the open stage night is structured insofar as not every night is open stage night. It's not like for you guys, the backyard is open if you guys, you know what I mean? but not everyone can just wander in off the
There's
road.
a hierarchy here.
Yeah. But so having those open stage nights that are like official open stage nights or afternoons where we have kind of designated a couple weeks in advance that this is happening, but then doing more once we have a core of people that are coming to those, doing a more of just a text message like, looks like the weather's going to be beautiful. Let's do, Thursday night, we'll have lights set up until 9 p.m. or whatever. So sort of just expanding on the formal open stage into also more casual, spontaneous open stages, but also I'd like to at least have a couple of like maybe a spring festival, a summer festival, and a fall festival where we've talked about that, where we have stations where there's things for kids to do. Yes, the ramp is the stage space, but there's also, our yard is big enough that, anybody juggle?
Juggle a little.
Yeah, or like just
I can learn.
But and like a designated kind of conversation space, space for food, because I always bring people together. Food, my favorite thing to do. But important. It's super important. But like, and sidewalk art, and for kids, and like turning it in and that being a farther reaching. So it's like, yeah, maybe you don't want to perform, but do you have little kids? I mean, like the amount of kids that we had trick-or-treating wasn't very many, but there's enough kids in the neighborhood that our friend Clara, like her granddaughter is best friends with the girl that lives across the street right there. That's hey, come over, we're going to have a watermelon seed spitting contest and bubbles and whatever, but have it more
I didn't even know that could be a contest. That's incredible.
Yeah, we're going to have teams and we're going to create
or hopscotch or like those things, or like I would love to do like a little like potting area where everybody can bring home their own little marigold, and they can turn it into, it doesn't have to be theater.
Slug repellent.
Slug repellent.
We've got it all, folks.
but it's a way in for people that maybe wouldn't come to an open stage night. They bring their kid, or they come by, even they just see I don't know, like.
Yeah, it's like the 3-ring circus.
Exactly. And, but a larger group of, so it's, quite a few people and stopping.
And we're not abusing lions.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We're the ethical.
but then stopping the stage performances and then having people skateboard, because that's also super impressive. And a lot of people don't see what skateboarding
And in the
be.
Cold winter, you want to be having dance parties and more potlucks? Is that?
Yeah, well, that's just kind of what I like to do in the winter anyway.
Yeah, we have to find things to do in the winter.
Oh,
Communities shouldn't end in the winter.
It's so easy here. Just turn on the lights.
Yeah, you do have a disco.
I have a little dance party basement.
Not for 100 people, but for
well, if we move the couch,
dozen maybe.
Yeah.
So that's
we're for intimate space.
Yeah. And I think that I don't know, doing a little just readings, or if somebody comes across a play they really like, just get a group of people together to read.
Script
play
readings,
readings.
yeah.
Should we transition?
We should, but I also want to just what was I trying to say? I was trying to say like twinkle something on top of something, but that doesn't make sense.
Put a little
Put some pizzazz.
Yeah, a little
because
sprinkles
I am so
on your
tired.
cupcake.
If I don't make sense, I always say that and then I do make sense. But to twinkle on top of that,
Put a little twinkle on it.
Yes,
like sprinkles on a
I
cupcake.
think I was trying to think of
But
sprinkle.
but I think
It's okay.
About,
sprinkle a twinkle.
and then I forgot all of the only language that I know thoroughly.
We're not
Uses
trying to win a
German.
hockey game here.
No, we are not.
We understand.
Are you also open to doing just kind of weird experimental art in town? Like we talked about walking around in weird outfits.
I really want to make giant paper mache hands and just walk around in the park.
Right.
Yeah. And a giant paper mache head.
Yep. It doesn't have to be a thing. It's just weird. Or Sasquatch.
So you want to do...
I just thought, what if we dress up like Sasquatch and walk through parks?
That could be fun.
But we would want to make sure it's like public park. I don't want to get bear spray.
And I would need to be a colorful Sasquatch.
Yeah.
I think the brown is boring, but I could be like a pink one.
No, but let's talk more about this.
So you want to do some dance and theater collective stuff.
Yeah,
with us.
I would.
I think maybe more on the fence about dancing in public.
It's
which is
not
okay.
about that. It's not. It's.
I think we could even like paint things and like just set up a weird little avant-garde exhibit somewhere downtown. Like it's not even art walk, but here's stuff. And like do a script reading on a corner.
Or come watch us dance. And
I need to come watch you guys dance. And it's not that me being me, I'm not going to be able to sit still, which is like,
no, you don't have to.
No, I mean like the minute dancing happens, I'm like, okay.
Great. And even
my inhibitions.
And even if you just can't sit still and you start pacing, or like, I don't know if you stim at all as an ADHD person,
I do.
But if you just need to do little finger stuff, I consider that dance. I don't consider any of the things that I do to like actually let out nervous energy different from dance. One looks cooler, sort of, but actually stimming can look really cool too. So you can just do whatever. You can just move, exist.
Basically, we have the same goal out of a safe home environment that you have for your home, only it's like an in-between, right?
Yeah.
We've got the theater, which isn't that safe. Maybe your place is just super safe. We have the outdoors, which is incredibly unsafe.
That's where I feel like theater for me is a safe space.
Yeah.
Outdoors, like that, the risk of, because I am such a, sensitive person and empathetic person, and the minute somebody catcalls or yells or like, and I will never, I mean, like,
it happens.
So, and that's exactly, and so that for me, it's not, it's the public reaction is what I find, and it actually, I'm like, not terrifying, that's a little too, but I am afraid of that.
No, I want to validate that. Like, it is objectively, like, we're kind of, like, putting ourselves out there to be, like, flogged and quartered, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will say is that more safety does come with numbers. So I would say when we've gotten a couple more people to dance with us, there have been less jeers and catcalls, and we actually seem like a group doing something which people respect. People respect 4 people more than they do 2.
Yeah.
The worst things that we've ever had happen to us was when it was just the 2 of us.
Yeah.
When we add in a 3rd or a 4th or even a 5th on an incredible bountiful day, we feel more accepted and we feel safety in numbers. So it's never going to be totally safe, and that's part of what we kind of talk about with anarchism, like doing these things, we can't guarantee safety. We're not going to lie and say that nothing bad is going to happen, but we're going to promise that if it does, we're going to be there to support you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's open to you if you would like.
Yes. I feel, And
okay,
costumes.
We're going right now.
Yes. Costumes. And for whatever reason, for me, but for me, like having an outfit, a costume, and becoming a character turns it into a safer space. Mm-hmm. And that is truly, it's not dancing in public that I'm afraid of. It's the public.
The public. Yeah.
We will talk more about this later in the episode.
Jim's become the timekeeper. We have another segment.
We're going to do something between that, but we will get more to this topic at the end.
Yes.
So now what are we doing? We're going to...
I think we're going to read part of a play.
Yeah, so we want to demonstrate that you don't have to be good at theater. Phaidra, at the open stage that we had, read this play that we're going to be performing for you. And she brought it to us because I said, hey, let's do some scripted reading for 5 minutes of our podcast to sort of break it up, and provided this for us. And we've only read it once through all the way. So be kind.
Or don't.
Or don't. We love our haters, our critics, I mean.
Yeah.
Yes. And Phaidra, do you want to introduce the play?
Sure. This is a show that I did, and it's interesting. This is the 20-year anniversary of auditioning for this show. And that's how I met my friend Amanda.
Yeah.
And so,
she just visited.
yeah. And
lovely.
So the show is called Metamorphoses. It's by Mary Zimmerman. It changed my life. I mean, like I said, I did it 20 years ago. The whole play takes place in a pool of water, which is just super awesome. But we're reading, it's like the final, it's like Ovid's Metamorphosis, retold kind of in a modern way. And we're going to read the final, I think there's a puppy at the door. He's like, what are you guys doing? Why can't I come hang out? Mm-hmm. But the final kind of story, in the play Metamorphoses. So like Jim said, we have only read this once, so we're just gonna wing it.
And we're playing multiple parts,
multiple characters, you know.
We will
the joy of theater.
We will try to convey.
We'll try to convey. All right, this is the story of Baucis and Philemon. It happened that one night, Zeus, the lord of the heavens, and Hermes, his son, came down to earth to see what people were really like. They disguised themselves as two old beggars, stinking and poor, ragged and filthy. They knocked on 1,000 doors.
Hello, do you have any spare...
Get out of here! Get the hell out of here! I work hard for my money! And 1,000 doors were slammed on them.
Hello? We're tired. We live on the street, and we hoped that you might...
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry. At last, they came to a little hut on the outskirts of town.
Why bother knocking here? We've knocked on houses of all kinds, the homes of people with plenty to spare. Whoever lives here obviously has nothing.
Let's give it a try all the same. We've come all this way.
This is hopeless. Let's just go home.
Poor strangers. Philemon, there are guests at our door.
Hello. We are strangers to these parts. We've lost our way.
Bosses, why are you standing there? We must bring our guests inside.
Do you know us?
Of course.
You do?
Yes.
Then who are we?
Why, you are children of God. Come in.
The two immortals, satisfied that their disguises had not been seen through, entered the house, lowering their heads to fit through the door.
No, don't sit on the floor. Sit on chairs, as quality people do.
Philemon ran to get another chair.
And Baucis fetched 2 pieces of cloth to pad them so the strangers might rest easy.
She stirred the coals in the hearth and fanned the fire to cook them a meal.
Philemon set out the embroidered cloth that they saved for feast days.
Baucis saw that one of the legs of the chair was short, and she propped it up with a shard of a pot.
Philemon set out a plate of olives, green ones and black, and a saucer of cherry plums.
Then there was cabbage and some roasted eggs.
For dessert, there were nuts, figs, dates, and plums.
And a basket of ripe apples.
Remember how apples smell?
At last, with a show of modest pride, they brought out a bit of honeycomb for sweetness.
Philemon poured wine from a bottle, but as he filled the glasses of the guests, he saw that the bottle remained full.
And then they knew. Oh, mercy! Mercy! You are divine, and we served you such a simple meal. Baucis, go and kill the goose.
Let it live. We are gods and we thank you. You've done enough, more than your nasty neighbors thought to do.
Suddenly, everything was changing. The poor little house, their simple cottage, was becoming grander and grander, a glittering marble column temple. The straw and reeds of the thatched roof metamorphosed into gold, and gates with elaborate carvings sprang up as the ground gave way to marble paving stones.
Old man, old woman, ask of us what you will. We shall grant whatever request you make of us.
Having spent all of our lives together, we ask that you allow us to die at the same time. I'd hate to see my wife's grave or have her weep at mine.
The gods granted their wish. Arrived at a very old age together, the two stood at what had been their modest doorway and now was a grandiose facade.
And Baucis noticed her husband was beginning to put forth leaves, and he saw that she too was producing leaves and bark. They were turning into trees. They stood there, held each other, and called before the bark closed over their mouths.
Farewell. Walking down the street at night, when you're all alone, you can still hear, stirring in the intermingled branches of the trees above, the ardent prayer of Baucis and Philemon. They whisper,
Let me die the moment my love dies.
They whisper,
Let me not outlive my own capacity to love.
They whisper,
Let me die still loving, and so never die.
I love that place so much.
That was our best reading of
Give
it.
us the Tony! Give us the Tony!
No, we don't need markers of outward success.
That's right. That's right. That was like chai stuck in my throat.
Chai boys. Chai.
No, I just played Zeus, so that was...
You had to adjust.
Right.
Come back to
Right.
mortality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely weird to play
A god?
a god.
Or the god?
Right, the god. Gods.
One of
You
the
don't
I
believe
tried
in a
to make
god of
my
gods, yeah.
my voice sound really resounding at the end there.
Yes.
You guys catch that?
Resounding but kind and compassionate.
Just- yeah.
Very,
Yeah.
very difficult.
Yeah, one of the various sky daddies.
Okay, speaking of sky daddies, we're going to speak
And people
about
being mean to the poor.
people being mean to the poor. We are transitioning to talk about one of our least favorite kinds of people, landlords.
Yeah. We hate them only marginally less than cops. And the hatred is going up to match it. And so recently I got into a bit of a squabble with my property management company. And they sent me a weird text and then left a note on my door with a fine because I had a sign in my window that said, "Autonomy is our birthright, death to the settler state." Because that was my sign for a protest that I was at literal years ago. I've had this in my window for at least 2 years. And I just put it up there for fun. And no one's ever commented on it besides my friends that I know of. Maybe the neighbors across the way are like, she's horrible,
Yeah, it's a little
but-
hard to see. You're in the upper
It
floor.
actually was hard
You're
to see.
in a corner.
But I
People-
made autonomy bold and I made death bold, and it looked like there was kind of like blood dripping off of it because I did a cool font, what I think is a cool font. And I got, a letter.
So what do you mean by the settler state? Let's just break down your sign.
By the settler state, I mean any colonized nation, basically. Any
Mhm.
form of government that is any form of government is oppressing the people. So
Mhm.
yes, a government within a colonized nation,
Mhm.
and within that, anyone who is in a place of power who also actively oppresses
Mhm.
the people. So we live in a settler state. By me saying death to the settler state, I mean death to the overarching systems which oppress us, not death to everyone in the settler state.
Actually, you're saying life to everybody.
Actually,
remove
life
the
to everybody.
settler state.
Because if those in power relinquish their power, I mean, this is me speaking for them, I guess, but we don't believe that those who are oppressing others can truly be happy either. And we have a lot of reason to think that. So yeah, I think that would be freeing for them. I think that would be, weight off my shoulders. I don't have to oppress people anymore. I can do whatever I like, which probably isn't this. And if it is, then yeah, we figure out something to do with that. But,
that's not how it was taken.
That's not how it was taken. It was the part of the lease that they referenced when giving me this letter and telling me that I had a week to take it down, or I was facing potential eviction, and I had to pay a $10 fine even if I took it down right there after the first actual notice. Because guys, remember, if your landlord texts you something, that is legally not considered notice. I figured this out when I was reading the tenants' rights online. Not that we should even have rights, because that shows that someone has rights that they're giving to us, which they're taking them away. But that doesn't count. So in their actual official notice to me, they were already giving me a fine and saying that they were doing that because I had gone against part of the lease that said you cannot have any decorations or any outward, I don't think they said signage, but anything external that has wording which is threatening to your neighbors. And so I asked the woman at the property management company who I called about this, did any of my neighbors complain? And I mentioned, I'm trying to create a thriving community here where we all trust each other to some degree and know that we can go to someone if we have an issue. Because I wanted her to know that I'm doing that and maybe feel a little bit threatened by the fact that I'm getting my neighbors together. And she was like, well, I can't say if it was one of your neighbors who contacted us, but I can say that the new owner saw it and he was very concerned. So that's the kicker. And this also has been backed with letters that they sent us saying that we weren't allowed to have decorations outside our door. I specifically had to take down a hanging dragonfly wind chime from my mother that was on my hook. They're like,
so offensive.
They're like, you can only have one plant outside your door. You cannot have a large table. You cannot have a grill. And to that, they actually stole one of my neighbor's grills. My neighbor actually found out that the property management company had, and I'm just going to also say the property management company, it's Alliance, anti-ad for Alliance. They stole my
anti-ads.
And they may have stolen my neighbor's bikes that came back. We can't confirm that. But yeah, I've had multiple interactions with them where they just seem to say, yeah, we want everything to be presentable all the time. It is your privilege to be living here. That is something that they say in most of their signage that they put up and their letters that they send us. And they can take privileges away. They're like, if anyone doesn't pick up their dog's poop, which happens, I step and poop regularly, we all might not be able to have dogs anymore.
Sounds like the settler strike. I
want there to be a settler strike.
The settler state has struck back.
It has. And at that point, I mentioned, my right to free speech. Not that I like the Constitution as a thing, but it's like, I didn't know, the lease overrode my right to free speech. And, it is clearly not, picking out any individual person or type of people. It is just alluding to something and showing a political and social opinion that I have. And she was like, well, essentially it's because it has death in it.
What if you were to put up a sign in the window that defined settler state?
Right. I was thinking of all these cheeky things that I could do, but I feel like I'm on thin ice with them. And I feel like now they are looking for things to get me on.
Yeah, they have the gun to your head.
Yes.
Because they control your shelter.
So the day after this, I got another letter saying that I owed $88. And I thought these were more fines. I was like, what is this? It turns out I had accidentally been paying $30 too little on my rent for a couple months since the rent change. I had been looking at the wrong number and they gave me a refund at one point. And so I thought the amount was different than it was. But they didn't figure this out for 3 months. and conveniently did not look into it to tell me that this was happening until the day after I talked with someone there regarding the sign.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Okay. So clearly this landlord's an asshole.
Fucked in the head.
But not all landlords. Landlords.
Landhordes.
Not allowed. That's a great. Not all landlords are going to force you to take your signs out, or aren't going to make you take your wind chimes down, are going to make you feel bad because you accidentally paid too little money. Are there?
I sound like such a self-obsessed white lady being like, my wind chimes.
I think that's insane.
A real issue.
No, yes. But is insane to me.
Is there such a thing as a good landlord?
I haven't experienced it.
What would make a good landlord then? If
they, first of all, didn't call themselves that. If they, second of all, reached an agreement.
I'm a property management company. I'm not a landlord.
Well, no, I don't think there's any good way to be a property management company.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what could they be? Could they own land and have you be a tenant?
They could be someone who helps you get in contact with other people who are trying to autonomously share space and keep it.
How about a property caretaker?
So we're getting hung up on the verbiage.
What I'm trying to get at is there a concept where someone can own property? You guys own this property, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going back to individual people. Property, like a group, I don't know.
Where there's a tenant. Yeah, I'm talking about an individual person. Can someone be an individually good landlord? Like, could someone be an individually good cop? You would say no to that. Could someone be an individually good landlord?
I would say someone can own a house and do something different with it. And in so doing something different with it, with other people living there, they would cease to be a landlord because they would be.
But would they have tenants who they ultimately control?
They might have friends or people that they know who need to live somewhere, and
could they kick them out?
No, in this.
So they're not actually the landlord.
I'm arguing for a restructuring of landlordism. So no, being a landlord, either individual or company, cannot be good. You have to reconstruct it.
Yeah, that's just where I'm trying to go.
I do think that there are instances where eviction may be necessary. Where it becomes, because let's be real, people are hoarders of where it becomes like a public health issue. But I think that in and of itself, or like someone who's a domestic violent, like an abuser, like getting that person out and keeping the person safe. I mean, I think that there are I think that there are caring moments where eviction is best for like everyone as a whole. Like if that makes sense. But a person who's a hoarder or something, I think it would be like getting mental health people, like finding those I would not go so far as, okay, so the whole concept of landlords and having tenants, like, you shouldn't make profit off of people living, like, that's the part that's absurd.
Right.
Now, are there instances, I do think that there are instances where people, okay, I'm a rule follower, but all of the rules that I follow are like rules that are kind to my neighbors.
Yeah, that's how we are too.
Like that loud party, where we all acted.
Yeah, but I mean, but it's like if you like don't vacuum at 2 a.m. But even that, I think if you have a conversation with your neighbor and you say, I work, whatever.
Right.
I mean, but I do think that there are rules for a whole, if you're talking about people, like, living in a building together, like, that if you're not following rules or standards, let's say standards instead of rules, then I do think that I would never go as far as say there's no, like, but...
And I wouldn't either.
So I personally have no problem with the idea of rules or the idea that someone may have to be removed.
But who is creating those rules?
The question is who has power over those decisions.
And people are so afraid that if you take away the structures that we recognize that are normal in our culture, then the only other option is just complete chaos. And there will be no structure and no rules. And we like rules. We like rules that are mutually agreed upon and that are there for a reason.
Yeah. Like if everybody comes together, new people when they come in, is that more of like a co-op environment? Like
co-op is a word.
Where
for
like
it.
no, like in where buildings where like people own their own apartments in buildings. Like isn't it more of a mutually decided?
I don't know of any examples of that, but
especially
I think
not here.
I'm
only murders in the building. That's my example.
Oh, I haven't seen that show, but it looks cute. Oh well, yeah.
But that right there, that concept is only allowed to people who own their apartment or own their condo.
Right.
Yeah,
because we don't have a system that allows for people to just say, hey, we're going out to the park. This is now our community.
Except for communities where people squat. And then they have enough numbers to squat in a building in a city. And this happens a lot in Spain, a lot in New York.
They're still at the mercy of whether the authorities decide that they're going to.
They are. It's a very risky action. Mm-hmm. But some people have done that and have done it for years. So that's a very literal example of that. Another one is to just try to build so much camaraderie and mutual aid in the space that you live that to as much of a degree as you can, you do your own thing and you try to keep the landlord off your backs, like keep things secret from them that you do together. I mean, we've been told that we're not allowed to leave anything in the laundry rooms at my apartment, that's considered just trashy and stuff like that. But despite the fact that we've been told we'll get fines if we leave things in the laundry rooms, people have continued to put like unopened food and like clothes and gifts that they have in the laundry room. And we have a mutual aid kind of sharing space. And people do this in every laundry room, in every building.
It's like your little secret Santa.
It's a sign to me that people still want to do these things, even though the authority has told us that we shouldn't, that it's bad, that we're going to get in trouble. If we build enough support, we can do these things and we can find creative ways to do it. So I think in our in our culture where we have so many eyes on us and so many different ways we could have authority come down on our heads, we have to get a little bit creative. But I think we can do that. And in my experiences where I've lived with just individual people who owned the house, that was no better. Jim knows a lot about my living situation before this, where I lived with at the time, my ex-best friend's brother and his girlfriend became very good friends with their younger sister, Lily, who is now a friend of the podcast.
And who was our first podcast guest. And you were our second ever where we've had a guest.
Yeah, so I became very good friends with Lily in this space, but it was a horrible space and it was unsafe for our pets. These people who owned it did not take care of the land or their animals at all. And their dog was bigger than mine and would kind of get in sort of fights with my dog and Lily's dog and would destroy things, ate my entire couch, which was one of the few possessions that I had. And the people who owned the house did not, it like peed on it, it ripped it up, it destroyed it. And they did not offer to reimburse me for the couch or help pay for the U-Haul that I had to rent and have Jim drive to take it to the dump when I was moving. So much of my personal stuff got destroyed, and that wasn't a huge issue, but it was more so that, I left the house for a couple of days and they let my cat out that hadn't been out on his own, hardly at all. And he was missing for 3 days and they didn't even notice. And when I came back and I was like, hey, where's my cat? And realized that they had let him out, they got upset at me for saying, hey, can we talk about this at some point? Can we talk about boundaries around my pets? They decided that I was enemy number one and literally just like ghosted me, even though we were in the same house.
Yeah.
And there
had those experiences.
Yeah, we've all had those experiences.
And there was animal shit in the house. And there were so many problems.
So in our society, restitution would have been you suing them, right? And you would have had to go in the courts. You would have had to have a lot of money to do it in the first place.
I would have had to have the desire to sue them.
Right.
That's not a process I want to partake in.
Well, obviously not. Yeah. But I'm saying
that's in our society.
That's what I'm saying. That's the social option for you in that situation. And it's only available to those who have a certain amount of privilege.
Yeah, so my option is get fucked.
Yeah. So, yeah, you either get fucked by your friends who have, in some cases, power over you because they own the property and turn out not to be great people, or you get fucked by a property owner, and we get fucked by our friends, we get fucked by our lovers.
We're just fucked.
We get fucked all over the ways because of all the different power dynamics that we have not deconstructed.
And yet we believe in love.
Yes, Ryan's an amazing guy.
I also believe in friend love. There's so many different types of
we
love.
are living examples of the things that we believe in that are not
or pet love.
Yeah.
Yep, we persevere despite feeling otherwise. And in your example of the laundry room is
that's
those
really,
little acts of resistance.
Well, and I'm like, what about putting even a sign up or something?
I have thought of so many iterations.
Well, no, but even something.
What if a sign that says, I took my other sign down because apparently, just something I don't know.
But then, like you said, is you're on thin ice or, but no, I mean something like, hey, everybody, let's make Wednesdays at 4 communal poop pickup day.
Yes. Totally.
And maybe you'll get 2 other people that'll help you pick up poop.
Right. The mean signs saying, you're a horrible person for not picking up your dog poop.
The privilege. It's a privilege to live here.
Right.
It's fuck you, I pay to live here.
Right. But it's hey, what if we actually decide that we, 1, don't want to have shit on our shoes. Probably other people find this annoying.
100%.
2, want to get to know more of our neighbors that we haven't met yet. And 3, we just care about the land that we have. I've been thinking about it. These are technically, or they used to be low-income housing, and they're not
Bozeman
anymore.
has a tenants union.
Yeah,
Maybe that will help you do that.
Tenants United, that's the new mayor that's coming in.
Which we have other thoughts about. That are
I'm sorry.
But,
really.
we have a beautiful space, actually, for this housing that used to be technically low income, and beautiful trees. And I think there's actually parts of the land that look very nice, but it's considered not to be because it's for poor people, And it's what if we actually decide that we care about the land that we're on? We want it to be beautiful.
So this is my let's plant some flowers in the spring.
Yes, and people do. People have started guerrilla gardens, and they've just died because the people have left. Yeah. But my neighbor Lexi plants a sunflower, and it grows every year.
There was a guy growing a tomato plant in the field outside your place when the weeds would grow up, and there was a secret area.
I wanted to talk to him, but he literally moved out before I could chat with him. So people have these ideas, and they want to do them, and it's just the same issues that we always talk about that are preventing it from being able to catch on. But landlords are evil.
It's the whole concept of it is, and housing in America is just fucked in general. But the fact, it's
the fact that we think land is something to own in the first place.
Yeah, that is actually.
And then, of course, I realize most people who own property are just working within the system, doing the best they can to survive, right?
Yeah.
And they're making their choice.
With the exception
none of the choices are great choices.
Yeah, but I don't think property management companies are terrible. The whole concept of buying and then they're never there when you need them.
Exactly. Whenever there's actually a pipe burst or an issue with the washing machines, they wait weeks, months.
And the only landlords that I've ever known that have been, I've known a couple of, and this is back in Fargo, but I've known a couple of people that are one guy, he was a bartender, but he was able to buy a small, 4-unit condo that he lived in and rented it out to kind of what you guys were talking about, rented it out to friends, the other spaces. And, they kind of decided as a whole what their rules would be.
That's the important thing. If it's mutually agreed upon, if they have an agreement that they think makes sense.
And basically, he was in charge of... I think probably their rent covered his rent and the mortgage, but he cleared the snow and, and so I do think it can be done, but I think it's the same thing as working for a corporation or working for someone that you see every day or whatever, renting from a corporation and renting from... Now, I'm not saying that there aren't slumlords out there because there are.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But the whole concept of the... if you add up all the money...
Oh, God.
Yeah, there are
It's unconscionable.
There are apartments here that are more than the mortgage on this house in a month. And that's insane.
Yeah. Yes. And I think we need revolution.
Yeah.
Because there's no way around it. Like, our relationship with land, it's all been parceled up. It's all owned by somebody, whether it's the government or whether it's by individuals or by corporations. We've taken it in all these bits and pieces. And how do you build the community you want without getting around that? There isn't a way around it. Someone is still going to own the deed. And ultimately, you have to be able to either trust that person is cool, and they may or may not be.
You know what image just came to my mind while you were saying that? I was thinking of the trees that grow up through the concrete in New Orleans when I was visiting New Orleans with my friend Amanda. We have to be like those trees without getting too cheesy, because it's like we are in the concrete. We are trapped in something. We, in our beautiful affinity groups and our small bits of community, can do so much. And we are so powerful in our own ways with our own hearts. But we cannot completely upend all of the concrete.
Yeah, we find our points of resistance. I feel like what you're doing with your property and opening the space to the community is a point of resistance. It's a radical thing. A tree growing up through the sidewalk. That's still a sidewalk, right? So we acknowledge that, but we still celebrate that something can still grow through that. And we all look for those, like us dancing in the park or the little, like you mentioned in your laundry room, the little gifts people
I love
give.
That. I love that.
And
all of these things are there, you know, like there's all, you know, there's still some humanity in Darth Vader. There's something, to reach.
And I love, like, just thinking back at the beginning of the podcast, how you were talking about looking at a skate ramp and seeing that it could also be a stage, and us being like, wow, even that is like something fascinating, because maybe a like sort of metaphysical prompt to the listeners is, this is something that I think I want to do, is look around me, inside me, and just at my life and think, what do I have or have access to that I could potentially do something else with? How can I get creative with what I have right now? I think that's something very fascinating in and of itself. We're going to have to get creative. And we are.
Yes.
And time is passing.
I know. I have a feeling we've probably
It's been exactly an hour since we started.
So
great. Our final segment can come in and we'll do it briefly.
But we're going to do rapid fire questions.
Oh, rapid fire questions.
For Phaidra.
Drink a water first. I'm scared.
Should we do 4 questions and each of us ask 2?
Okay, I have one prepared, so I'll have to think of another one.
Me too. That one's going to come on the fly.
We will at least do 2, and if we can creatively come up with 2 others.
Fire, you guys. I was thinking.
I know, for rapid fire, but they turn into.
Okay.
They should be rapid
Your
fire.
Answers are supposed to be rapid fire. Our questions can be well thought out and planned.
That's hierarchy.
Yes. Do you want to go first?
Sure. This is a question that our lovely mutual friend Kiki asked us on a road trip. Would you rather be able to travel to space or the bottom of the ocean?
Space. I want to, like, I should have just said that. I'm such a sci-fi nerd. I love everything about, like, space. Science fiction is, like, a huge part of my life, has been since I was a kid. But I am also realizing as I get older that, like, the ocean is also something that I got in a fight with my best friend Amanda one time.
We met Amanda.
Because I told her that I would, if I had the opportunity, I would go to Mars, and if there was no, like, if I couldn't come back, I would just go and die on Mars. And she got so upset with me. And I, at the time,
that split friends.
Yeah, right. At the time, I think I meant it, but, like, she was really upset that I would just leave everyone that I love behind and people that care about me, and that was the point that she was making, and I understand her point I'm at a different place in my life now. So I understand the point that she was making, but at that point, I'm going to go fucking Mars. I'm going to go fucking die. I'm going to stand on Mars.
Be out there with Matt Damon.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my gosh.
I think
that
more
was too long of a scene.
Like there's, yeah. But no, like Ray Bradbury, but I mean, there's so many, whatever. So I would have to say space.
Okay.
As long as
we need a caveat.
Well,
no,
we may have to cut you off. Your answer's getting too long.
I want to hear it though.
No, but like if the space-time continuum didn't exist, because like if I would go and then come back and it'd be 200 years from then maybe I'd choose the ocean. But if like physics wasn't real,
right?
Sure, space.
Physics
also,
real,
no, I
space.
don't. Well, it all sounds terrifying.
Sounds
actually.
like the bottom of the ocean.
Space is the answer.
Yeah, no, that's
fine. They are similar in some ways.
Okay, mine is related to travel too.
Okay.
If you could travel anywhere in the world, not space, not the bottom of the ocean, but anywhere in the world that you could go, where would you go and with whom besides Ryan?
God fucking damn it, Jim. That was going to be my next question. It actually was.
Too bad.
I think I would do like
Eat a green boy.
probably
Suck a green boy.
Fiji with my dad.
What and why?
Because he's always wanted to go to Fiji, and I would always choose something equatorial. I love tropics. Like Amanda was asking me if I'd rather go to Paris or to South America, and I 100%, or Costa Rica. I think we were not South America. I'm 100% would rather go to Costa Rica. Not that Paris, sure, great, but I definitely have that kind of like explorer part of me, and it's a big part of me, and my dad is the one who instilled that in me. And I mean, if flights weren't so expensive and so long, he has said that is Fiji or Bali is one place that's like his bucket list. So if I could go anywhere, I'd go to Fiji or Bali with my dad. Go canoe on an ocean with my pa.
Go canoe. And your dad is great, by the way.
I love my dad.
I met him. My question is, I don't know how you're going to answer this. I'm sorry. But Jim stole my question, so I had to come up with something. I can be slow.
No, she can be fast.
Oh,
she has to be fast at whatever weird question she
relatively. If you could do anything in the public without fear of any sort of bad retaliation, what would it be? And so this can be something that is illegal. This can be something that's audacious. What would you do?
Does my skill set
or mundane?
Does it have to?
It doesn't have to do with your skill set. It's like if you could do something and get away with it, not be judged, what would you go out and do?
And now I'm just thinking of things that I should just do, and I'm like, I don't care if I'd be judged. Okay, so this is something that I would love to do, and we could do it in public, but as I've gotten older, I feel like it's super wasteful. I would love to have a massive food fight.
Oh.
Okay.
Like mashed potato, I have thought numerous times that would make a great concept for a restaurant. Like plexiglass in like a room and your like mashed potato guns and shit, but like you'd have to offset it with so many donations to like food. I mean, so if I could have a mass like public food fight.
I guess all the rotten food. All the food that's
like a dumpster dive for the food and then throw it.
Do you really want rotten food thrown at you?
I don't want it, but I'd experience it. I'd give it a go. But
because that would be, because there's a moral dilemma that I personally have about having a massive food fight. How much fun would that be?
That's so interesting. It would be fun, and it would also be kind of like guttural, kind of
gritty. Gross. Yeah.
I mean, I've always liked the idea of at least pillow fights. Right?
Yeah.
Yes. Have you ever had a pillow fight?
Yeah, a few.
Okay. The way you said I love the idea of it. Have you never done it?
Not a massive one.
Yeah.
Never had a massive pillow fight.
I just think throwing mashed potatoes would be so much more fun than water balloons. I hate water balloons.
Totally. Yeah. No, I love that answer. That's fucking fun.
Okay, one more question.
Sure.
Yeah.
assuming I had a garden, which I don't because I don't have a yard. I live in an apartment also.
Yeah.
If you were to plant this garden for me, name 3 plants that would definitely be planted in my garden.
That's a good one.
Well, okay. So,
here in Bozeman. It's here in Bozeman.
Yeah. So what I always tell people, like, if you're growing your garden for food, I always say grow what you eat. Like, don't grow things you don't eat. Because it's like so silly. Yeah. It's so silly. But so that being said, I would be like, what do you want to eat? And then I would help you figure out how to grow it here.
Tomatoes.
So tomatoes would be.
So you're answering the question.
Yeah.
But that would be my first caveat is that I would ask you what you actually wanted to grow if you wanted it to be food. But secondarily, I would always grow marigolds because they're a pollinator attractor and the deer don't eat them. I would do probably some sort of like a native grass for just height and color. And then if we're not talking about just native stuff, I would herbs, just mint and lavender and like, but that's 3 things is just, but something to attract the bees and the butterflies, something that the birds can eat and animals can hide in, and something that smells amazing.
Oh, I love that answer. Fuck, hire Phaidra.
We don't need the last topic. Back. Yeah, that's it. No. Okay.
Really fast last topipic.
Because we talk about dancing all the time.
10 minutes for last topic.
But we just went on vacation.
Yes, we did.
We went to
Joshua Tree
in California.
Down in LA.
In the desert.
And Salt Lake City.
Yes, so we went to Southern California.
We were generally about the desert.
Right. We spent a lot of time in the warm, lovely desert. And it wasn't hot because it was the autumn, but very perfect.
It was snowing
weather.
Here, but it was not where we were.
We just told them climate change has kept this place warm the whole time, but apparently it has had some cold spells while we were gone.
Only one brief one, which is also weird. But
during this vacation, we did what we do. And we also took one in August to Seattle, where we went to a concert. We went to a concert on this one too, but we've been doing our thing that we do in Bozeman, which is public dancing. So I thought it might be an interesting conversation. Let's compare and contrast. What is it like to street dance in Bozeman versus street dancing in other parts of the world, like Joshua Tree or Venice Beach in Los Angeles or Art Museum in Seattle. And we've danced in other places as well.
Honestly, it's pretty uneventful everywhere.
So by uneventful is because we're uneventful? What makes it uneventful? We're quite
eventful, but nothing much is happening to us. So we haven't gotten a ton of like really strong anger for a while. Not since we had our abolish the police banner. That's when we really had some people riled up. We get a couple, go back to Seattle, and then it's like we go to Seattle, and it's like what?
Go back to California.
Yeah, but people go back to Portland. They're like go to some weird place.
Oh, people here say that?
Yeah.
And they say that we look like we're from a Grateful Dead concert.
And generally when we go other places, people do not assume that we're from Montana at all. They're like, what? From Montana?
They're like, oh.
They have thought we were locals in places.
Right.
They thought that in Seattle and California, I think.
Well, let's see. Our typical Bozeman experience is we dance. The two of us dance. Somebody almost always joins us at some point to dance. Not always, but almost always.
Yeah.
And usually we'll dance for half a song.
Yeah.
And on average, we probably get one person who dances and a few others who shimmy down the street as they walk by us.
And generally, a couple kind of dirty looks, but only rarely do we actually get like a negative comment.
So pretty positive. Not a lot of people join us. Somebody inevitably does join us for a little bit, and other people smile, appreciate us, shimmy a little bit.
Which we consider a success.
Show some love for dancing, or that what we're doing.
Yeah.
A few negative remarks.
Yeah. And then that pretty much is exactly what happened in Joshua Tree in LA when we danced.
Right. And in Seattle too, right? So everywhere we go, we typically have the same experience.
But as you mentioned in Seattle, we had more support from the workers in Seattle. We were outside of the Seattle Art Museum, and I think there were actually 4 different workers that I saw about their day. There was a mailman, there was a person cleaning, there was someone else doing some sort of construction, and there was another worker.
Cab drivers going by.
Cab drivers liked us.
Yes.
And we got a lot of very enthusiastic support on their faces and like being like, yay. One of them said yay, I think.
Tourists mostly just walk by.
Tourists walk by, but I felt like the love from the workers that felt really genuine was like a lot more of a reaction.
And it was interesting as we were actually dancing under a giant statue of a proletarian,
striking
worker.
the iron.
It was like a working class.
And that was part of our protest. It's like, what if we danced instead of labored?
Yeah, I didn't think about it. I thought we just danced there because it was a space that had some people. It was also a good space. But it wasn't so crowded.
But I was like, working class. There's some commentary here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And people probably thought we were rich bourgeoisie because we wear the clothes that we do.
Right. And even in Bozeman, we don't always have the same experience. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we have more people dance with us. Sometimes we get more love. Sometimes we get more hate. Mm-hmm. It's not always the same, depending on where we dance.
No, it's a mixed bag. And but I think it's interesting that people joined us in pairs in both Joshua Tree and LA. Mm-hmm. Because in Joshua Tree, when we were just on their like little sidewalk in their kind of like zany little town that they have by the same name, we had a couple, one man and one woman, dance with us, and they were people of color. Mm-hmm. And they said, "Oh, we would dance with you again," but they actually like walked down the length of the sidewalk, and we're about to come back.
They said,
"We'll
dance with you anywhere." I think they said something to us.
They did,
really
but
strong.
then it was like they didn't want to come back again because it was a little bit too much. But they genuinely liked us, I think. And then 2
that was fun dancing with them.
Yeah, and then 2 women came over like giggling, like they had been talking to each other about whether or not they should join us on Venice Beach. And then they came and they danced, and then they left. And so it's like, people approach us in pairs because, it would be really, maybe even going outside the realm of safety because people don't know us to walk up to a pair of people dancing and join them.
Of course, we were at Venice Beach where there's a lot of weird stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
Street performers, singers.
We danced beautifully to a street performer who was singing, and she appreciated it.
Correct. But I think people would think, oh, you're in Venice Beach, you're around a vibe where that might be more accepted. More people will surely come up to dance with you.
That is my assumption. Absolutely.
And that is not.
That was dash.
That was not our experience.
2 people, like pretty much everywhere else we dance.
We probably still stood out in general more than the average person in Venice Beach, even when we were just walking through the area, dancing to street performers or whoever. Mm-hmm. We lit up the place. Mm-hmm. So we're not actually finding outside of Bozeman that there are these areas that
are already lit up.
That are lit up with all these people doing unusual street cultural things the way Aly and I do it.
And maybe we just caught them at a moment where they weren't doing it. Maybe there are other parts of the city where that is happening.
Well, you went to New Orleans, which is known for dancing, and you came back and on this podcast said nobody dances in New Orleans.
But I was there in January when it was raining, and it was literally like the worst weather ever.
But you were dancing in New Orleans.
Well, yeah.
So why aren't there more people like you rainy in January dancing? We dance in Bozeman when it's snowy and cold outside. Right?
The people like us are few and far between, and just by the way things are, sometimes we're not going to run into them.
From the TikTok world, you would think dancing's going on everywhere.
Oh, God, another way to commoditize.
But it's not really going. I don't see it going on everywhere. I don't walk through a place I haven't been and said, hey, whoa, this person's doing what we do, Aly.
Mm-hmm. Which is pretty cool and also sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, we're not out all the time. Most days of the week, we're not in Bozeman. So the average person come through Bozeman and not see us.
And I think when you see people dance, I mean, when I've seen people in larger, like, urban cities dancing, they're usually street performers, like formal
Right.
Whether it's breakdancing or like some sort of movement, usually
It has
some
to be
form of
good,
yeah,
quotes.
yeah. And then there's a hat
Dude,
there,
break dance.
which is great. I know they're super talented,
No, I
but
don't.
I think the only other type of dancing I've ever seen is like
Maybe like a flash mob sort of dance?
kind of, yeah. I've been like parts of things like that, embarrassingly enough. But no,
No, it's not
like,
embarrassing. I love that.
like cultural, like Native Indigenous people dancing.
Yeah.
Yes.
That like, but usually it's associated with like street fair, but they're just on a corner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, so when I have seen people dancing on a street corner, it's usually street performers, and there's a hat or something that
Right.
you know.
Right. No, once when I was with my ex,
There's
we
acrobats
were
involved.
dancing at the airport on the big island of Hawaii at the airport. And an old guy said, "Yeah, you guys really should put out a hat for this." And it seems like strange to us because we're not performing to try to get something or to get money. We're performing because we just like to dance.
I would be interested. Have you ever put out a sign, like a folding do you do that every time?
No. We have a sign that says "Dance with Us."
Yeah.
A big sign that says "Dance with Us." That occasionally will get a few more people to stop for 10 seconds when we do that. It
hasn't had enough of an effect for us to do it every time, or else we would. If like 5 people danced with us had a sustained dance, I think we would probably bring it out every time.
It's probably a little more than not having it, but not enough, like you said, for us to say, "Oh, that's such a great idea."
But maybe we just need a better sign.
That's what I was thinking, and not
like a bigger one.
Well, and I just like, because you know me, the aesthetic, I always want to make things cute, but like, and something that kind of even just like explains that it's like, you know, find the joy, find joy in movement, dance with it. Like, there's just...
Yeah, that's an idea.
You know?
We might need a bigger, more explanatory sign.
At one place, we chalked a circle that said "Dance here."
Yeah. Which was somebody else's idea. Somebody recorded a video of doing a chalk circle saying "Dance here," and they recorded people dancing in it.
But we wonder how long that took to get all the footage they got.
Right. And a couple people did stop and dance in that on the way past us, but most didn't see it. So I think being more visible and having like a statement, like we really do need to actually have an artist statement.
And it's not that you need to have an artist statement, but maybe people will be more likely to participate. No, that's actually got me thinking now, Phaidra. Yeah, I already have it designed in my head. At least not what's on it, but just like what you can do that's easily
how to
moved.
structurally.
But we do get seen around town in Bozeman because we've been seen enough by people we don't know, people we didn't know watched us, and will say, "You are inspiring."
Yeah, see, that's awesome.
Seeing your dancing is inspiring.
Yeah, I don't remember very many of those, but I'll trust you that happened.
Probably at least 10 or a dozen times. Okay. It happens actually fairly frequently.
Nice. People will tell me that they know who we are, but they won't say that they're inspired. Go half of the equation.
But it would be interesting just to sort of, like, as an experiment, just add, like, and play around with, like, different ways of inviting people in.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because when people have a dance space, like an ecstatic dance, they have an explanation of what it is.
Yes.
Right. So
we did have our rules written at one point, right? Like
during COVID,
no bigotry.
No bigotry. That was on. Yes.
But I think sometimes people just need like what they need. They need an invite. They need permission.
Right. Yeah. What's hard is there's 2 of us. They assume we're a couple. Even though we're not a couple.
Yeah.
We say that a lot, don't we? We doth protest. No, we're not.
It kills me when you just turn to the camera. Like,
I know.
I keep on forgetting it's there. I'm like, oh yeah.
That's good.
That's good.
We're not YouTubers.
The people watching us don't matter.
You totally matter.
You totally matter. Those listening to us, they totally matter.
But I think, I do think you're right, because it becomes, like you said, it's 2 people, and you're like, well, is this like a performance? Should I be watching? What exactly?
Are they just high on shrooms, in love with each other, and I'm encroaching?
Then Ally's, Aly to me is objectively really good at dancing, and then I'm always wearing these crazy outfits.
Sometimes I'm wearing crazy outfits.
True, but it's weird for people to see a man wearing a crazy outfit.
Yeah, and I could do something so crazy, and it wouldn't be as crazy as your crazy.
This really is a performance.
Yeah.
And people don't necessarily feel that invitation. When we do have more people, we still don't draw that many more.
Yeah.
But we do draw a few more. Like it seems more likely that we'll get a few more people who come by when we have more people dancing with us. Mm-hmm. But we're just determined to dance whether people dance with us or not. Yeah. So we're mostly not doing it necessarily to draw the public in. We're doing it first for ourselves.
But I also think simply sort of an explanation of like,
mm-hmm.
I totally agree.
And I always am like a QR code link to like
Well, we actually have some flyers.
Lily made us some QR codes.
Flyers with QR codes.
Yeah.
Glue it on there. Everybody will know what you just.
They'll be like,
a little glue stick.
Then they'll see Antifa, these violent. And then they'll give us death rats. So great.
And then they'll think something new about the world.
There you go.
They will listen to our podcast.
Probably not.
We have dozens of people who listen to our podcast.
We do.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
From all over the world.
We're global.
We are.
A force. A global force.
We may have even had a listener once from Fiji.
That's awesome.
Wow.
I can't remember, but somebody from the...
I hope you get to go there with you.
Someone, I think, in the South Pacific has listened at some point.
Yeah.
Is that a wrap, babes?
Sure. Any
final thoughts? No, the thoughts have all left my brain, and there are none left.
Final feelings.
Good.
Super
good.
Mine is, I just want to thank you for being really, really willing. You're like,
I should do that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be the better person.
Sometimes you just are, Jim. Don't have to try.
Just wanted to thank you for sharing, opening, fun conversation, but also the growing friendship.
Yeah.
Being open to all the beautiful, intentional conversations and sacred spaces and opening your home up for food.
She did sacred space with us. And anyone who listens knows how stoked we are about that.
I think that should be something more people do.
Absolutely.
We'll just say that.
Just been beautiful, this process of getting to know you. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait to keep playing together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for your vision for community. That's my real final thought.
Thanks for having me, guys. No, we all know I love to talk, so anytime.
You are in good company there.
Now hosted by...
I'm going to take over.
By Phaidra. Not us. That'd be interesting, actually, just to have a rotating cast of podcast hosts.
Anyway,
I'd be totally for that.
Yours in solidarity.
Did you have any final thoughts? Sorry.
This was fun.
Yeah, the thoughts were kind of being thrown in there.
No, I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is great. I want to continue to grow and expand and explore and risk and all sorts of wonderful things. I may be convinced to come dance now. I'm thinking about it.
That would be amazing.
You're never forced. It's open.
Didn't Lily start coming after being the special guest? I don't think Lily had ever danced with us before.
I think she had danced before with us.
I thought that was something well, maybe not.
I think she just started coming, actually. But we can revisit the podcast.
Yes, we can look at the order. It's a mystery.
We're getting to the point where we're forgetting our own lives because they're so rich and full of love.
I do want to make some announcements.
Oh, okay.
Just because some people on the video, you'll see it scroll by, but for our audio, only people who are can't see, vision impaired.
Absolutely.
That if you want to reach us, we're the Bozeman Antifa Dance and Theater Collective. We're on the web at www.bozemanantifadance.org. We are on Instagram at Bozeman
Antifa.
Correct. And
Antifa.
And you can email us. Yes, we still have email.
Is it Bozeman Antifa Dance at Gmail or just Bozeman Antifa?
Just Bozeman Antifa.
I don't even know our email because nobody emails us.
At gmail.com. We're also on Facebook, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah, and we're almost getting banned from it every week.
No, that turns out it's a lot of scams.
Was that a scam?
Yeah, a lot of scams are reaching out to us, trying to convince us that our sites... Yeah, we're getting fished left and right.
That's
Anyhow, we would love to hear from you. We would love to dance with you. We would love to hear about your creative endeavors wherever you live. If you're in Bozeman, we would love to meet you. If you're coming through Bozeman, we would love to meet you. And if
we like you, you can do stuff with us. Like, it's not some secret echelon.
Invite us to your
It's not the cabal.
Invite us to your little dance studio at the bottom of the ocean or in outer space, and we will be happy to go.
Yes. I have danced in space before, so I would love to that.
We will bring food we grew in our gardens and a marigold for you to plant.
I love all those tie-ins. And now we're really done. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
The police don't protect you. The government doesn't serve you. Change isn't made in a ballot box. You better get together with the people in your neighborhood and learn how to save yourselves.